Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Southern Maryland Delegation meeting. Today is Friday, February the 18th, and we're very delighted to have outstanding and special guests with us. Today, we're going to focus on education. But before that, will you please stand in your seats or stand where you are as Rachel Jones, Delegate Rachel Jones, presents the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a prayer. Delegate Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gracious God, we come before you this morning to thank you for another day that you've given us and the opportunity to represent the wonderful residents of Southern Maryland. As we discussed this morning, the priorities and issues surrounding education in our region, we ask that you give us guidance and wisdom to ask the necessary questions and make the best decisions for the residents of our region. Please continue to bless us to exercise sound judgment as we strive to do what's best for the benefit of all Southern Marylanders. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you very much, Delegate Jones. You may ask, well, why are you doing this virtually? Because I feel that we have to have some sort of consistency. And for me, the pledge and standing as well as a prayer for guidance is always right on target. So again, I want to welcome you to our Southern Maryland Delegation meeting. And before that, I'm going to ask members if you would look at the minutes from February the 4th. And if there are no corrections, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor, please just say aye.
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 Thank you so much. Thank you. I love this group. Okay. As I said before, we are simply ecstatic to have the three outstanding superintendents from Calvert, Charles, and St. Mary's here today to offer their information about what's going on in their schools. And I said to them, it's open, whether you want to talk about challenges, awards, whatever, so that you will share with us what you want the delegation to know, as well as those who are viewing this on live stream, about your school system. So let's brag a little bit because we're really proud of you. Okay. Delegate Fisher is not here. Okay. So we will start with, I'll just have all three start together. Proceed because I'm told that they've worked it all out. So we have Dr. Daniel Carey from Calvert County, Dr. Maria Navarro from Charles County, and Dr. J. Scott Smith from St. Mary's County. I'm looking at the J, I'm thinking, is that right, Dave?
It's James Smith, and so I go by J. Scott Smith. Or Scott to my friends, I consider you all my friends. Please call me Scott.
And on our call, I thought you were the Southern Maryland oil people, right?
All right, exactly.
It's an inside joke.
I could not help you.
It's an inside joke. All right, superintendents, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Dan Curry here, and I don't have any slides. Scott and Maria have put together some slides for their presentation, but I do have some show and tell. Now, I want to start first with telling you about Calvert Tots. Now, this is the logo, and here, whenever one of my staff has a baby, and that staff member lives in Calvert County, so I consider one of my babies. And so I send them a onesie that has the logo on the front and our own logo on the bottom, on the back. And we do that to promote what we call Calvert Basics. The basics are what parents should do from birth to 3 to see that their children develop to be successful in school. 80% of brain growth happens by age 3. So you can check us out at calvert.thebasics.org to see the video and to see the guidance that we offer to parents of newborn kids. It's always been a bugaboo of mine as a superintendent for a long time that we take them at age 5, and we know so much important happens long before age 5. So why don't we get in there and mess with that and try to shape what happens birth to 3? It's not anything that gets funded regularly except for special ed cases and things like that. I know I'm supposed to introduce myself. Calvert County, I've been in Calvert County since 2014, and I am about to retire as I've been a superintendent for 34 years in 3 different states. In 29 years, I worked in West Virginia, and there 15 of those years as a superintendent. Then I went to Delaware for 11 as a superintendent there in Central Delaware, Lake Forest School District, and now finishing up my career. And it's always, I found that it's a job that fits me well. And it's always every day brings something new. So that's why I'm glad that you're glad to see us, because some days people aren't really so glad to see us. A few things more about Calvert County. Recently, Carrie Akins, who is head of our CTA, our Career Technology Academy, was recognized as the CTE Administrator of the Year. She's managed to get several new grants for new programs there, and we think that's such a good fit for the college and career-ready goals of the future. I want to say, I know that some of you are interested in how we may have been spending some of the federal dollars coming our way. And most of us have done much of the same kind of thing with more robust summer schools than ever before, Saturday schools, after schools, trying to help children catch up. But one of the unique things that we've done with especially our ESSER III dollars was it helped us afford to build a new elementary school. Beach Elementary School in Chesapeake Beach was due to be replaced, and we had bids, but they were high. And we were going to have to value engineer perhaps. But we found out that we could properly use some of the ESSER funds to contribute to that cost of a new Beach Elementary School. So with $3 million from our ESSER funds, we were able to move forward and not have to postpone and risk prices going even up further by having to redesign and rebid. So I mention that because it's one of the most unique things that we've done with our virtual dollars. This year we did virtual learning, offered virtual learning for families who wanted to commit to it for the year. We have about 100 in grades 3 through 5 and about 100 in grades 6 through 8, and less than that in high school. We probably won't continue to offer the same high school opportunity next year as we did this year. But at the moment, our classes are full for elementary and middle. So it appears that might be always on the menu for what we offer in the public schools of the future. The challenges, we all know the challenges of this past year. None more important than challenges for transportation. Shortages of bus drivers. In Calvert County, we typically would start the year with 151 buses on the road. Come August, we learned that we were short, our various contractors were short 15 drivers. And so we had to quickly redesign our bus routes and had 136 bus routes instead of a 151. And then you all know about the challenges of work stoppages and things like that. We were grateful that with a contribution from our county commissioners to help pay for this first year cost, we negotiated some new salaries for our drivers so that they are considered full-time living wage. And they each hourly rate went up almost 25%. And for some drivers who were working 6 hours a day, we guaranteed them 8 hours a day. So a few things like that were a part of the middle of the year that kind of interrupted some of the other work we were doing. And I can't say enough for our parents who dealt with that. The lines were long for parent drop-off when buses weren't running, but the parents met the challenge and got their kids to school because they wanted their kids in school. Lately, our biggest, for me anyway, since Anne Arundel County announced that they are lifting the mask mandate. Everybody wants to know when we're going to lift the mask mandate, and probably Scott and Maria have been answering those questions also in the last couple of days. And we point out to them we are still under the state required mask mandate, and we've got to hit certain numbers before we can even consider it. And when we hit those numbers, we will. And if we don't, we might be relying on the state to lift their mandate sooner. So we're all dealing with those challenges. I can tell you that for the future, for Calvert County and perhaps for all counties in Maryland, what our biggest worry is likely to be budget and supporting the blueprint. Last year, whenever thank you for holding us so that we didn't lose any money because of our loss of enrollment last year. We had saved a lot because being virtual and then going into hybrid, still there was a lot of money that didn't get spent. And so my Board of Education decided to take what they saved and take it easy on our local county commissioners. And so for this current year, when we made this budget, we asked the commissioners for $1 more than the previous year. And we contributed about $6 million of our reserve funds that had been saved throughout the year to replace what typically would have been asked of our county commissioners. This year, I'm not doing that. This year, I'm asking them for $9 million more than last year. And that's probably not enough to move us forward for some of the requirements of the blueprint. All school districts, when they try to calculate what they need to meet the requirement for a 10% salary increase from FY19 to FY24, we're going to need several million. When we're talking about getting the base salary for all beginning teachers to $60,000, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars. So right now we're a little bit concerned. Thanks. The state formula works well and provides us a significant increase this year, but it doesn't do much for increasing the expectation for a local share and local increase. In fact, if our bottom line, if our board just decided to give the minimum required, they'd give us $2 million next year, less than they provided this year. So finances are on our mind as we try to imagine what the next few years will be like in navigating the blueprint. So that's all I have, and I'm going to hand it over to who's next, Maria?
Thank you very much, Dr. Curry. And please note, members, if you hold your questions until the end. Thank you very much. Dr. Navarro.
So good morning, Delegate Patterson. It's so nice to see all of you. Some of you I haven't yet met, but I'm looking forward to meeting you. I'm Maria Navarro. I have a little less number of years than Dr. Curry as a superintendent, as this is my first year. It is great to see Dr. Grasmick, at least virtually, and to see so many of you here today. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about the wonderful things that are happening in Southern Maryland, and also echo some of the concerns or things that we are thinking about as superintendents. Definitely support Dr. Curry's specifics around the finances. We are thinking, eating, breathing, the financial needs for educating our students and those local funding needs that we will need coming forward. But at the same time, we're very grateful for the innovation that the blueprint is allowing us to bring forward. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about things that are happening here. I don't know if it's helpful. We did do a PowerPoint, if I may show it, and maybe Dr. Scott will continue it, and I'm happy to turn it for Dr. Scott if that works. And so I'm gonna share my screen for a minute and see if that works. Dr. Smith, does that work? Dr. Scott, Dr. Smith?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you just share the screen, you can walk through the slides. That'd be great.
I don't think I can.
Right. So somebody needs to make you the co-host or me the co-host so that we can share a screen. So who might be the one responsible for coordinating the Zoom call?
There are Joy and Kara.
So could Joy or Kara?
And Kara, they're in the other office.
Oh, there you go. Look at that, Maria. You're the co-host now. You can share your screen.
I am a co-host. I'm gonna go crazy now. Okay, sure. Let me pull up the PowerPoint and just make sure. Can everybody see that?
Yes, just put it in presentation mode.
Yes.
I love the corporation. It's fantastic.
We did this together. And so I just want to highlight from Dr. Curry, our PowerPoint presentation. He has a lot of dynamic graphics to talk about the work that he's doing, and I'm not going to echo it, but you will have this PowerPoint presentation available to you. And in there, he highlighted a lot of the things that he talked about and some of the things that are important to him. Note also the proposed budget at the bottom. Again, I too want to highlight that finances are very much on our minds. But moving on to Charles County Public Schools and some highlights and celebrations. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to just talk about great things that are happening. I do want to highlight that 7 Charles County Public School teachers were recently honored with MSD's classrooms of distinction. And we were the only school system, and all 7 teachers came from Charles County Public Schools. And the reason I highlight this is because the grunt work that comes from teaching and learning and preparing and having kids thrive in classrooms is not a one-time event. It actually happens every single day through the hard work of teachers. And to me, this distinction and the fact that only Charles County Public School teachers were amongst the group that were highlighted this year and celebrated and got the award shows the huge commitment that our teachers, even through a very difficult year, have for the learning of our students and the hard work they did. So I just wanted to shout out that I am so very proud, and our work moving forward will be to expand this. And we will share with other school systems their great work, but we obviously want Charles County to have the distinction of having these teachers who really, really go deep into their work. We also earned the 2021 Advanced Placement Computer Science Female Diversity Award from College Board. 3 of our schools got that recognition. And it is extremely important because we know that female representation in computer science is low. And our teachers are stepping up to find young women to follow in these career pathways. And so that's just a way in which locally our teachers are thinking about opening more pathways for our students and our students that are maybe traditionally underrepresented in career pathways. So that was really nice. One of our schools, Barnhart, was recently honored as a National EACA Distinguished School. This honor goes to Title I schools, and we know that Title I schools may sometimes have a lot of things that students are facing that move them away and they become barriers for teaching and learning. But in these schools, they hone in and they focus and overcome those barriers for students and remove those barriers for students. So Barnhart was honored, and we've had other schools in our school system before previously honored, including Mount Hope, Nanjamoy, and Dr. Mudd Elementary School. I want to talk a little bit about some of the strategic work that we are doing here in Charles County Public Schools. We have a vibrant dual enrollment program, but I wanted to see an early college program. And the difference between those is that the early college program solidifies a pathway by which you graduate with an associate's degree at the same time as a high school diploma. And many of our students are absolutely ready to take this on. I happen to be the first school district in Southern Maryland to do this, but I know my colleagues will be following right along because they too have very vibrant dual enrollment programs. And this is the next step for families. So actually this week I've been out every night talking to families about the partnership with CSM. We will start at 4 schools, Lackey, St. Charles, Thomastown, and Westlake with our pilot. When we looked at equity and access for dual enrollment opportunities, these were the schools where we saw that students had the least amount of access. And so we started there. And our goal is eventually to grow this program so that we have AA degree opportunities at all 7 of our high schools. The other thing that we've done at the secondary level is that all of our 7 high schools have partnered with Equal Opportunity Schools. It is, if you know or don't know the organization, it's a national organization that really hones in around who are the students that have traditionally been underrepresented in advanced coursework, such as advanced placement or IB programs. And it works with the school system and the teachers to identify students that should be taking courses and how to support them to not just be in the course, but actually excel in the course. And so now this is an initiative that we didn't start at 1 school or 2 schools. We jumped in as an entire district and said, this is something that needs to happen at all of our high schools. And my goal is to come to my board and to the community and every year show that we have identified, supported, and had students achieve in more advanced coursework. And finally, I wanted to talk about the work that is ongoing and that is core to really impacting the learning and the learning loss that we had and all of the things that impacted our students through the pandemic. And that goes back to the core work. And the core work still is fundamental to having core instructional materials in front of kids that are rigorous with processes to ensure that we are monitoring how students are doing and that we're in classrooms supporting teachers to make sure that they are exposing kids to rigorous coursework. And so as such, Charles County is now fully implementing what I would say is a more rigorous set of instructional materials for elementary and middle school. And next year we will be moving into high school for both English and math. And we also brought in a strong diagnostic assessment that really allows us to see the growth of students moving as we interject and provide lots of supports. Like Calvert, we are also expanding learning opportunities for students, and those also include both in-person and after-school online tutorings at all grade levels. It is a huge investment for us to do this. We're monitoring carefully the impact it has for students. And we're also thinking about how to think of an entire year, not just a school year, for learning opportunities. So revamping what happens in the summer, and opportunities and expand opportunities for kids to take original credit throughout the year during non-school hours and also during the summer, so that kids can advance and have more flexibility in their schedules to pursue whatever pathway they're interested in and can prepare them for life after graduation. And then I'm so glad that that in Calvert, and I'm going to check out this website from my colleague, they're focusing in 0 to 5, the 0 to 5 spectrum. Here in Charles County, we are expanding pre-K very much tied to the Blueprint initiatives. We want to coordinate and we need to really work and coordinate with our local partners in the early childhood space, how to expand options outside of the public school systems, quality pre-K outside of the school systems. And I think that's going to be an important piece. I will tell you in Charles County, we will have difficulty matching the pre-K programs outside of the school system in centers and so forth. So there is a lack of capacity right now from centers and the non-school programs to meet the requirements of the blueprint. And we're going to have to work. And I think this is as part also my responsibility to work with the early childhood community here to expand these programs. But absolutely, we're looking to not just expand and support more seats, but actually rethink the quality of those seats and the early learning pieces. So I'm going to stop there, and I am going to pass it on to Dr. Smith, and just make faces at me, Dr. Smith, and I will change the screen.
And I'll officially go. Next slide.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so next slide. Great. So first of all, what a fantastic attentive audience our elected officials are for 20 minutes worth of talking. And I could say pretty much the same thing that Dr. Navarro and Dr. Curry have said about their school systems. I encourage you to visit each one of our websites. Each one of our websites is a wealth of information, including return to school, school reopening plans, and things like the annual report. Our annual report, if you go back.
Sorry.
Go back. Our particular annual report definitely gives a lot of information about how we've reopened, what the metrics are, where we are right now, and talks very specifically about how we've used the wealth of funds that have come to each school system through ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3 to help us recover the learning and the progress and the stability in our children's lives. We too are running, we ran a very robust summer program. We have after school programs, over 3,000 kids were in our summer programming. All of our programming is in person, blended, asynchronous, whatever they may need. Transportation is included in everything. Thank goodness for all bus drivers. It is an incredibly challenging job. And thank you very much for transporting our kids during the summer and during the school year and into the evenings. Some of the more interesting things that we did with the final installment of the funds, ESSER 3 or the American Recovery Plan funds, we put rising freshman academies in each one of our schools to particularly target our 9th grade students, because they are at the greatest risk of not making the academic progress they need, and that they had disrupted 7th and 8th grade years. So we did have a Fairlead Academy that worked with 60 students across the system. We increased that to 215, and that's been a real success this year, making sure that we wrap our arms around the children who need us most. We also set up a virtual academy, very similar to, I think, my neighbors. We only serve students 3 through 12, about 338 kids across all those grade levels. It is very important to have that option this year. It'll be interesting to take a look at the data and see how that continues into the next several years as we get back to some sense of normalcy in our classrooms. Overall, we are very pleased that we have about a 91% average daily attendance across our school system. Now that's down from our usual 94.5, but 91% with all things considered definitely shows that we have the engagement of our community, our parents, our students, and our staff. Next slide, please. Going to highlight very similar things. We have dual enrollment as well as my two neighbors do. We have over 1,000 students enrolled in a college class or program on campus or in our schools. That's 1 out of 5. We have over 1,000 students enrolled in dedicated CTE pathways. Again, about 1 out of every 5. So 2/5 of our students are either in college or in a CTE program. 9th and 10th graders are working their way to get to a college level program, or college level class, or a CTE program. One of the things that we do down here that I'm particularly proud of is the Superintendent Students Leadership Advisory Council. We call them the SLAC, or the Slackers. And they represent all of our secondary schools. They're usually schools around principals advisory councils. They come together with me quarterly and just talk about what's going on in their lives and share directly the stories from the hallways, the classrooms, the playing fields, their lives that they're living as they go through secondary schools in St. Mary's. It's been a really great program. This is our 8th year of doing it. Next slide. Of particular note in St. Mary's County, Delegate Crosby and Delegate Morgan and Senator Bailey, they know this really well. We have a very, very strong team between the superintendent's office, the St. Mary's County Board, or St. Mary's County Health Department, and the St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office. Dr. Brewster, Sheriff Cameron, and myself, we met almost weekly for the first 2 years of the pandemic to talk through everything that was going on in our schools, in our community, and with the health of all, not only their physical health related to COVID, but also their mental and behavioral health. And I'm sure all of you are reading the headlines and you watch the news and you see how we're all struggling, but particularly our young people are struggling to navigate this really challenging time. So it's very important that all three of us work together cooperatively, and we do so in a fantastic fashion. In the middle of all of this, the most creative way I've seen the COVID dollars, all of the recovery reinvestment money, we actually had designed and installed 2 school-based health centers, one in the northern part of our county, Margaret Brent Middle School, tucked behind it, and in the southern part of our county, Spring Ridge Middle School. And we have worked to staff that up. We will be offering medical services to children, families in the larger community, including access to doctors, so they can actually do diagnosing and prescribing. They also have BSL labs, whatever that might be, so we can do the direct testing of the polymer chain reaction COVID tests and give results in an exceptionally abbreviated timeline down here in St. Mary's County. It's a great thing that's going on. If anybody would like to come down and tour them, it's really quite marvelous. It all springs forth from the mind and the persistence of Dr. Mina Brewster, our local health officer. She is just fantastic. Next slide. So there's a lot of things that are going right. There's a lot of challenges that we have every single day. We wanted to kind of provide something directly to each one of the delegates to kind of be thinking about. Certainly the blueprint puts forward a vision for Maryland schools. Embedded in that vision is the top tier educators that our children deserve. Unfortunately, we are in the most dire time ever for educators. We have Dr. Curry, Dr. Navarro, St. Mary's County, we have more provisional certified staff in front of children than we have ever had, because there is an absolute teacher shortage. Across the state of Maryland, the University System of Maryland is turning out less than 2,000 teachers a year, and one large county can consume that entire output. As we are more far-flung, the further south you go, the less the lure for young people. They want to be in beautiful urban centers and have all the resources. So we really struggle to draw people down to us. So we have been working with the College of Southern Maryland perpetually to talk about how we can build 2+2 programs to fuel the need for engineers. Previously, it was engineers, and now we're turning that to teachers in particular, because what we really want to do is provide pathways that keep our kids local, and they can work directly in our schools as they go through their teacher preparation program. So the College of Southern Maryland and the University System of Maryland, Southern Maryland, USMSM, formerly the Higher Ed Center, is really a fantastic facility, and we are working very hard to have a 2+2 program so that we can have our educators earn their bachelor's degrees from that location under the umbrella of USMSM or a partnering institute of higher education like Notre Dame. So we're working on it. I'm looking forward to presenting a lot of our ideas later this year, and some of the legislation and the funding that's come out of it may very well fuel this work. There's a dire need, but there's also some fantastic inspirational creative solutions that will make, I believe, some of our most effective and efficient teachers. So look to that. That's going to be good stuff. Next slide. So delegation, what can you do for us? I could talk about the woes of budget. I can assure you that nobody down here wants to hear Scott talk about the fact that we don't have enough money to do the things that everybody wants us to do. What is really important is Senate Bill 640. It's also cross-filed as House Bill 1426. Senator King, thank you very much for putting forth legislation. I believe the House bill is was being sponsored by Delegate Lutke. And it basically says, it's a very short little bill, and it just basically says, oh my gosh, in the middle of all of this, you have to give the school systems at least the same amount of money you gave them the year before. Because the formulas that have been generated out of this blueprint, when we actually calculate the formulas, each one of our school systems would be receiving less than they received the year before from their local commissioners, their local delegation, their local decision makers. For us, the difference is we received 114 million this year, and we are very thankful for that incredible infusion of funding. According to the funding formula put forth by the state, they're only obligated to give us 108 million. So, ouch. In comes Senator King and Delegate Lutke's bills. Please support them. They say that the counties must at least give us the same amount of money that they gave us last year. So at least give us flat funding to the previous year, and recognize that, you know, the cost of living has gone up over 7%. So those dollars are even more dear, but don't worry, we'll figure it all out with your support and help. Next slide. And now I'm almost done. I saw that Dr. Grasmick was on the phone call. This is very, very near and dear to my heart and many people's hearts. Kennedy Krieger is the absolute gold standard for supporting children and adults with disabilities. I believe their tagline is turning disabilities into abilities. It is fantastic. And it is also quite expensive. And where we are down here in Southern Maryland, if we have a child who is ultimately eligible for and accepted into a Kennedy Krieger Institute program, they have to be transported for hours and hours and hours on a bus. That bus has to stay there while they're receiving services and then come back. And so in our budget in St. Mary's County, the only item in our $237 million budget that is running over estimation is out-of-county placements. And that's because of the incredible expense to be able to do it. So I know there has been great work. I know that there looks like there's interest in and movement towards the development of a regional center to serve the Southern Maryland area. And I urge you, anything you can do to support us in this, this would be of the greatest benefit to each one of our school systems, as well as each one of our children and parents who really could benefit from this fantastic resource.
Well, that's a good segue into Kennedy Krieger Institute, because they are on the agenda for an update. This has been simply fantastic. And for me, it's really interesting to see the similarities and yet the differences. And so I hope that we will be able to have this annual presentation. Let me start with, I see a hand from Delegate Morgan. Delegate Morgan. You have a question?
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. It took me a little bit to get the mute off. Thank you both, or all three of you, for your presentations. It was good. The question on the mask. I was pretty disappointed with the State Board of Education really circumventing local control for all three of you, because the decision they made back in September took the powers out of your own school board's hands and out of your hands, and how to govern your school as far as these mask issues were. I was happy to see that the governor came out last week against the face covering mandate. I was happy to see Anne Arundel, superintendent and school board, vote against it as well. Dr. Smith, you and I had a bunch of emails back and forth this week, but really all three of you, I'd like to know what your position is on this, because the state board's off ramps for the mask, they were written back in September when the science was, I guess, not really well thought out and absolutely wrong. He talks about 80% vaccination rates and a couple other different off ramps. And we've known this is just not to be accurate six months later, especially after the Omicron variant has ran through the schools. There's news reports out today that said that 73% of the population has had this. I think the public is just sick and tired of the mask issue. I think students are sick and tired. And let's face it, one thing that has been consistent from the beginning of COVID is students, people of 18 and under are the least affected by it. That has been consistent. So can you tell me what you're doing to relieve this situation? What are you doing with the school board? They have a meeting up on the 22nd to, I guess, revisit this policy. I guess it's just a monthly meeting. I know there's been some rallies. What are you doing to hopefully get this overturned? Thank you.
Well, so Delegate Morgan, since we have communicated back and forth, the one consistent, I think that everybody, if we're going to be held accountable for a certain situation, the better we're able to make the decision most local, the closest decision to the problem at hand. I think that's going to always give us the best outcome. We do follow the law. We follow what's in COMAR, and what's in COMAR is that children will wear masks in school until 80% of the population of a county is fully vaccinated, or 80% of a population in a school is fully vaccinated, or the transmission rate is 50 cases per 100,000 per week. And we're not close to meeting any one of those metrics. And I don't think realistically we will meet any one of those metrics before the end of the school year. So I look to engage in a conversation with anybody who wants to talk it through, but it's not a decision that we get to make locally. And it's certainly not something that we get to defy locally. We can't decide that we're going to follow this law and not another. So
And I agree with
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Smith.
I have a follow-up, Madam Chair.
Who's that? Oh,
Delegate Morgan.
Delegate Morgan, okay.
I agree with you. I mean, it is in COMAR, but what I guess I'm sensing a frustration with, and what we're getting told by our constituents, is there doesn't seem to be anyone advocating for just anyone advocating to release these insane policies right now. You had the state board back in September come up with these metrics that are just not based on reality at this point. What are the three of you doing to alleviate the situation?
Delegate Morgan, in all due respect, we have only a few more minutes, and I think,
Madam Chair, with all due respect, this is what people are concerned about right now, and they're
well,
not concerned about
some people are, and I
HB
think
1426. I can assure you, they don't care about that.
well,
They care about this.
Dr. Smith has answered as it relates to the law, and I'm going to just, I promised the superintendents that they will have a chance to answer questions from the delegation. I appreciate your point, but please, in all due respect, let's let the other members ask a question. He's answered yours. Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and superintendents, colleagues, good to see everyone this morning. There's a lot of stuff to unpack from this briefing. I took lots of notes. Since I serve on the Education Committee in the Senate, most of these issues are in my wheelhouse. So I'm listening, and I will basically keep an eye out. So I just want to make a comment and inform you of several things that are going through the committee that and the Senate, which you all touched on, okay? And I'll be very brief, Madam Chair. And so basically, I want to just say the comment is Superintendent Curry. You talked about the birth through 3-year-old reaching those students. And I'm just happy to say that I've worked with the Southern Maryland Regional Library and the Charles County Public Library for a year, all last year, on addressing this issue. So we're bringing the Imagination Library, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, to Southern Maryland. The bill is now ready for final passage in the Senate. This is like a 10-year funding. It passed the committee unanimously, did well in second reader. And I want to also say there are other bills going through to bring reading programs to this age group. Senator Corey McCray is bringing an Imagination Library program statewide. And it's just tremendous opportunities for our children to get them so much more ready when they hit your doors. So thank you for that. Virtual learning. I just want to say that there's a bill going through, I think Senator Pinsky's bill, Chairman Mahihi, to create a virtual academy, authorized virtual academy for all the jurisdictions in Maryland. I'm glad to see that you're doing that, and this legislation will make it so much funded and really so more possible based on state law. And I just want to say also, let me see, take notes. I just want to reach out to Dr. Navarro and say thank you for all you're doing. And I would love to know, you didn't mention if Charles County had a virtual academy this year. So if you could just answer that really quick, and I'll just end my comments there. I wanted to thank all of you again for all that you do. Tremendous work through COVID, tremendous challenges, and you all stepped up to it, and I appreciate it. And on behalf of our delegation, we thank you.
Dr. Navarro, would you answer that, please?
Yes, ma'am, we do. And we are absolutely, we do. We go elementary to high school, and then next year we are bringing a comprehensive high school virtual program forward. We discussed it with our board, and we will continue in that path for next year.
All right, thank you. The last two questions are Delegate Wilson and Delegate Jones, and we still we'll hear from the Kennedy Krieger Institute. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I apologize for missing the first part, but I really felt the need to discuss something briefly, because we've been really dealing with this a crazy woke culture lately, where feelings seem to matter more than facts. I've seen it, it's gotten rampant in the last year, especially. So we're talking about the COVID and the mask mandate. I'm fully vaccinated. I spent 11 days in the ICU after being fully vaccinated because of COVID. I have pulmonary embolisms in all 4 of my lungs, will be on blood thinners the rest of my life. I'm 50 years old and excellent health. See, the problem with this woke culture is they don't feel like wearing masks, and the children are least impacted. The problem is they're around adults. They go home to adults. The teachers are adults, and many times their caregivers are senior citizens. So I ask you, I implore you during this time to not fall for this BS woke culture that wants to tell you about their feelings, when the facts are people die from this. If I wouldn't have gone to the emergency room with a backache, I would be dead, and I'm in phenomenal condition for my age and for younger ages. But the woke culture has us thinking they don't feel like doing it. I'm glad they weren't around during the Vietnam War, because guess what? They wouldn't have felt like doing that either. The fact is, it is a deadly disease. We can't get around that. We can talk about how emotional it is, but it is a deadly disease. It kills people. It has scarred 30% of my lungs, and I'm in good shape. So imagine what it does to somebody with diabetes, to somebody who's older, to somebody who's more susceptible to this disease. So I implore you, as you move forward, dealing with this woke culture that wants to tell you about what they feel and how tired they are and how woe is me, that you understand that it's deadly. It is very serious, even for those that are fully vaccinated. And the standards that are set out were done with the best science at the time. Because what you'll never hear is the other side of the coin of why it's not good. You just hear a bunch of hyperbole gotten off the internet. But I'm telling you this because I've lived it. I'm surviving it and dealing with it every day for the rest of my life. And I hope that you guys take that into account as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Wilson. And lastly, Delegate Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank all of the superintendents for your comments and for your updates. While I don't know you yet, Dr. Navarro, very good to see Dr. Curry and Dr. Smith. Dr. Curry, particularly, I know we have worked together through the years and discussed some pretty hot topics for Calvert. But I do thank you for your service, and I do thank you for your dedication to the students and to the community in our county. I know that I'm gonna have to say I was gonna touch on some of what Delegate Wilson just mentioned, but he just made the point that I was gonna make. It's that people are taking things home to adults in their homes. And so I appreciate that you are following the guidance of the MSD and the science. And as the numbers decrease, I'd be happy to see math be able to remove, but it's about the safety of not just our students, but of our families and everyone in our community at this time. And so I thank you for doing what you can and handling tough questions from parents and students alike about math mandates. But I also, again, commend all of you for how you handled things during the lack of bus drivers and the shortages. And Dr. Curry, yes, the lines were long for drop-offs the days that we had bus driver strikes, but I appreciate the bus drivers being able to get what they need, and that parents, we all just stepped up to do what we had to do to get our students to school. So thank you each for what you're doing. HB 1426 is important. I know counties like Calvert have done a good job throughout the years trying to ensure that maintenance of effort has been reached. But every county in the state would have the opportunity to make sure that happens. And so I appreciate that. And I'm looking very much forward to the presentation from Kennedy Krieger. As many of you know, my son is on autism.
Would you then like to proceed into introducing the Kennedy Krieger Institute?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes. So again, Kennedy Krieger Institute does a phenomenal job of not only diagnosing and treating, but also educating students with developmental disabilities across the state of Maryland. My own son has been diagnosed and received resources from them for his autism. And so they're with us today to talk to us about an effort that Senator Bailey and I have been working on with them, in addition to the Calvert, St. Mary's, Charles, and Prince George's County school systems, in order to bring a Kennedy Krieger Institute to the Southern Maryland region. And so I introduced the Kennedy Krieger team.
Well, good morning. It's my pleasure as chair of the board of Kennedy Krieger to be with you today. As Madam Chair said, we've known each other a long time. I was state superintendent of Maryland for 20 years. And although I did not have the pleasure of working with these specific superintendents, I had great joy in visiting and being part of Southern Maryland and its delegation on many occasions. And I'm simply thrilled today, and I'd like to extend this to all three superintendents, to hear the progress that's being made in Southern Maryland. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you to the delegation for having us here today. We're here because we're responding to the request that we consider extending Kennedy Krieger to the Southern Maryland part of the state of Maryland. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Smith, for saying that Kennedy Krieger is the gold standard. Indeed, it is one of a kind in this entire country, because it has not only diagnostic, educational, research, outpatient services, a hospital. It is multi-dimensional. And we are eager to provide these services to any child with special needs in the state of Maryland. And so as a result of a request from the three superintendents to consider a location in Southern Maryland, we're here today to say that we have a deep interest in doing this to fulfill your needs for children with special needs. And so as this develops, we want to look at every dimension, every logistical consideration, and make sure that when it's done properly, and it truly serves the children who need to be served. And so we're very grateful to have had this invitation extended to us. And I'm going to ask for some brief comments from the vice presidents of the school at Kennedy Krieger, Dr. Aaron Parsons and Dr. Linda Myers. And Linda will be speaking today. Dr. Parsons has a voice problem today, so Dr. Myers will just give you a brief overview. Dr. Myers?
Thank you, Dr. Grasmick. Thank you to the delegates and the superintendents and senators. Thanks for having us here this morning. I know we're about out of time, and I apologize. My internet is unstable. Hopefully it hangs in there for another minute or two. As Dr. Grasmick said, we are eager to respond to this request. Our original Kennedy Krieger School program was operated on the second floor of our hospital building in Baltimore 35 years ago. And each time we opened a new program, we did so in response to requests from local school systems to meet the needs of the students that we serve. And we are eager to do that again in Southern Maryland. As you know, we've got students, you've got students coming many hours each way every day on the bus. The transportation is arduous, not just for them, but as you heard, your drivers. And so just minimizing that alone will make a big impact on these students and their families. And we've got not just students from the 3 southern counties, but also close to 20% of our students are from Prince George's County, also on long bus rides. So we're eager to meet those needs. We have the experience. We know what it takes to open a program, and we very much look forward to continuing to partner with you, to work with you, and meet the needs of the students who have the most complex needs in the schools. And if we have time, we're happy to take any questions.
Yes. So, Madam Chair, I don't know if there are any questions for us. We're delighted to answer those questions. And again, our gratitude to the superintendents who are eager to serve the children who have special needs with in partnership with Kennedy Krieger, because it is the gold standard.
We appreciate your presentation and know that you have 2 strong advocates supporting you. Senator Bailey, I believe he's in a hearing or voting session. He certainly advocates for you. And on the House side, Delegate Rachel Jones has done a great job as well. So we are here to rely on them and also to support you. I see the hand of Senator Ellis, and then we will close out.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Superintendent Grasmick, thank you for your long service to the state of Maryland. I'm glad you're still involved in education for our children. I have a quick question. How is the Institute funded?
The Institute has multidimensional funding, but it is an independent entity. Sometimes people think we're affiliated. We have an affiliation with Hopkins, but we are an independent entity. And so our funding is a lot of fundraising. There are pockets of money that come from federal initiatives that come to Kennedy Krieger. But for our school, no child is currently, who's a public school student, pays any tuition. That tuition is covered by the local school system with a multiple, about 3% of the per pupil, 3 times the per pupil expenditure. And then there is a special fund in Maryland that doesn't exist in many other states, and that is for non-public special education schools. So that makes up the difference. So no, parents do not pay tuition. And that makes us position to accept children not based on the income of the family.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate the fact that you recognize our time. And Dr. Grasmick, I'm going to ask you if we need you to come back with your panel. I'm hoping that you'll be amenable to doing that.
I would be delighted to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, colleagues. I am telling you again, superintendents, you have impressed me, and I'm sure my colleagues, so very much. And I hope that we will have a copy of your presentation. I know I'm coming down to look at your the health center down in St. Mary's County, see if we can replicate that here. Absolutely. As well as the other 2 counties in terms of what you're doing. So we are really appreciative and know that our dollars are being spent, as tongue in cheek, wisely. So again, thank you. And the blueprint is part of our Ways and Means Committee. We had a hearing on yesterday, and the other bills that you cited in my case, it comes before the Ways and Means Committee where I serve. So you do have supporters in the Maryland General Assembly. I'm going to ask Chair of the Economic Matters, Chairman Wilson, if he can come back on camera for a moment. And as while he's doing that, in 2 weeks, we will have again the presentation from our 3 hospitals, as well as Senator Ben Cardin will be here. So we'll have representatives from University of Maryland Hospital, Charles Regional, St. Mary's Hospital, and Calvert Memorial Hospital, as well as the Comprehensive Health Care in Greenbelt, the Cancer Center. So I don't know where Delegate Wilson went, but we just want to acknowledge that it's his birthday. And so, oh, there you are.
I'm sorry, I was handling a quick meeting. Thank you guys very much. I heard my name. I jumped back on. I am listening, but yeah, thank you guys very much for the birthday wishes. I'm turning 50 this year. Me and Delegate Crosby are the same age, so just want to say thank you.
Well, it won't show, but these are donuts from Chicken Ruth. I'm told that's your favorite. Your donuts are waiting will come down to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
And stay on board for Charles County, because the Charles County delegates will have a meeting right after this.
Thank
you.
you.
Again, thank you so much and have a great weekend. Thanks, Joy, and thanks, Karen, for your help.